Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Code Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The recitation today is as follows. Gaudi Mahalla Panjwa, So Kich Kar Jit Mail Na Lagai, Har Kirtan Meh Eho Man Jage Rahao, एको सिमर न दूजा पाओ, संत संग जप केवल नाओ, कर्म धर्म नेम व्रत पूजा, पार ब्रह्म बिन जान न दूजा, ताकि पूरन होई काल, जाकी प्रीत अपने प्रभ नाल, सो बैसनो है अपर अपार, कहो नानक जिनी तजे बेकार। सो बैसनो है अपर अपार, कहो नानक जिन तजे बेकार। Do all you can, the Guru says, to keep the mind unsullied. So kich kar jit mail na lage. Mail refers to the scum of the mind, impurities, if you will, spiritual ignorance. And in Gurmat, the source of all afflictions is the mind's identification with the fiction of Haume consciousness, the idea that I am a distinct center of experience, separate. It is the feeling of subject versus object. That, Gurmat tells us, is an illusion. And it is this illusion that gives rise to mental disorders, which are characterized by a clinging to physical existence. These are called upadhis, the mental disturbances, aberrations. Because the mind has deluded itself, or has been deluded into believing that it is a separate, distinct identity. So the Guru says, So kishkar jit mail na lage. Do all you can to keep the mind free from this dross. And to do that, Har Kirtan meh eh man jage. Har Kirtan meh eh man jage implies that the mind awakens by glorifying the Har Self in the temple within. So there is a play on the word Kirtan here. It is ordinarily associated with the singing of sabads from Gurbani, or bhajan if you will. That is Kirtan. It's a form of eulogy or praising. But the term also means a sacred space, the residence of the self within. And Kirtan is considered to be the most important limb of bhakti, devotion. Kal Yug mein Kirtan pradhana, Gurmukh japiye laye dhyana. So in this Rahao, or central message, the Guru is saying we have to take care to make sure that we do not suffer from this delusion, that we are somehow independent in our existence. And the way to do that is Har Kirtan meh e man jage. The mind awakens when it understands and then eulogizes through the singing of Gurbani the praises of the self. And the self resides in that sacred space, Kirtan, inside. So that is the advice. And that is further amplified in the first verse, where the Guru says, Eko simar. cultivate remembrance, gain insight. Eko simar na duja pao, lose your sense of duality. Do that by cultivating the mind to focus on the one within. Sant sang jap keval now. So eko simar na duja pao, sant sang jap keval now. With the guidance of the Sant, the Guru enlightener, or Guru wisdom, with the guidance of Guru wisdom that comes from the Guru enlightener, gain insight. Jap. Jap means to understand, although physically it means to utter, but it means to gain insight, to understand, into Jap keval now, immutable law, and then lose your sense of duality. We've chosen to translate now here as law, immutable law, or hukam, which is often used synonymously with naam and sabad. And the reason is to emphasize that hukam governs the physical and mental structures of the universe. So within the mind, it acts as the moral law. So with the guidance of Guru wisdom, lose your sense of duality. Lose this idea that you exist independently or that you are in fact in control. That's the delusion of Haume. And now the Guru comments on very popular practices that we see within the religious domain. And he mentions them. Karam taram, name brat puja, par brahma bin jan na duja. So here, you could look at it to say that a religious rites, karam taram, observances, name is religious observances, brat, fasting, puja, worship. So religious rites, observances, fasting, and worship should lead to Parabrahm, that state of transcendence, Janana Duja, where there is no duality. So an alternate suggestion for this could be that all external ritual and practice tends to strengthen rather than dilute the sense of duality. So the effort of Gurmat is to lead the mind to realize the self, which is an underlying unity. It's the substratum of existence, and it is both immanent and transcendent, visible and invisible at the same time. You see, we perceive only the physical side of reality and are completely ignorant of the essence, which is not visible to the senses. And that is the illusion. Jagta ki puran hoi kaal. Mission accomplished. Puran hoi kaal. Kaal is the life project, if you will, the mission, the enterprise, the hard work is accomplished taki puran hoi kaal, when jaki preet apne prabnal. When union with the Prab self within is established, then the enterprise is deemed to be successful. So the key is the cultivation of a loving relationship with the Creator within. And the Guru offers in Gurbani many examples of love and exhorts us to the mind to follow. So for instance, the Guru says, Re man, O my mind, aisi harsyon preet kar. Such should be your love with the Har self, jaisi jal kamalai, like the lotus. Lehri naal pashariye bhi vikse asnaye. So giving us the example of the lotus flower, he says, the flower blooms despite being tossed around in the shifting scum of the pond. So the pond here is a metaphor for the world. The idea being that despite being tossed around by the vagaries of life, we continue to thrive and bloom. And he also gives us the example of fish that delights in water. The deeper the water, the happier is fish, and the more fluidly fish moves. Re man aisi harsyo preet kar. Look at fish. Jaisi mashli neer, like fish to water. Jo adhikao tyo sukh gano. Adhikao, the deeper the water. Sukh gano, the deeper the love. So these two examples should set the role for us. We see the intensity, sacrifice, longing for love. But the problem with us, as we have seen, is the mind's vision being clouded by haume or self-centeredness. And we need good wisdom to bring that awareness of the self. Because the Guru says, bin Guru Parit na upajay, haume mail na jaye. Without good wisdom, the distortion of haume inhibits us from falling in love with the self. And Puran Hoi Kal, when the good guided recognize the self within, the Guru says, what else is there to do? Gurmukh aap pashaniye, avar ke kare karaye. And then he says, so baisano hai apar apar, kaho nanak jin taje bekar. So the Guru says that the individual becomes a baisano, which is the self, apar apar, transcendent. You acquire that consciousness, universal consciousness that looks past the constricting bounds of your own ego. Apar apar. Kaho nanak jin taje bekar. Bekar from the word vikar means defects and modifications. The mind's constant churning, the inner chatter of the mind that we experience comes to an end. And when that happens, the mind reaches the state of transcendence. On that note, until the next time, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.